The entire basketball world froze when Candace Parker and Aliyah Boston finally broke their silence on the explosive Caitlin Clark versus Diana Taurasi debate because they didn't come to tiptoe around the controversy. They came to detonate. Sitting shoulder to shoulder on the broadcast desk, Candace leaned forward first, eyes sharp with the authority of someone who had lived through every era of women's basketball.
Or to go to the championship,
she said, voice cutting through the studio like a blade.
Closing her eyes
this isn't just a debate. It's a battle between eras, egos, and expectations.
With that being said,
the room went dead silent.
One-on-one.
Then Aliyah jumped in, voice steady but burning with emotion.
Just because
people are acting like Caitlin's rise is a threat. It's not. What's threatening is pretending the league hasn't changed. Fans watching erupted instantly, some cheering, some stunned, some furious, because this wasn't commentary anymore. It was confrontation. Candace called out the veteran-rookie tension head-on. Aliyah called out the double standards suffocating young stars. And together, they dismantled the myth that Diana Taurasi's viral warnings about Caitlin's future were just jokes. They said what no one else had the courage to say. This debate was never about basketball, it was about power. The energy in the studio crackled, social media detonated, and the WNBA found itself in the middle of a generational collision no one could stop. Because Candace and Aliyah hadn't just spoken their minds, they had just chosen sides. And the fallout was already erupting across the league. Long before Candace Parker and Aliyah Boston ignited the biggest on-air confrontation the WNBA had seen in years, the tensions surrounding Caitlin Clark and Diana Taurasi had been simmering beneath the surface quietly at first, then violently as the league transformed under the weight of Caitlin's arrival. To understand why Candace spoke with such sharpness, why Aliyah's voice burned with something deeper than commentary, you have to trace the emotional history behind the league's generational fractures. The veterans women like Diana Taurasi came from an era defined by struggle, grit, and relentless uphill battles for visibility. They built the league brick by brick, paycheck by paycheck, often carrying the WNBA on their backs with little reward. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark entered the league in a world they never had access to. Charter flights, global sponsorships, sold-out arenas, cameras following her every move, the kind of spotlight that once felt impossible. None of it was Caitlin's fault, but she became the symbol of a shift that arrived too late for the generation that fought hardest for it. Candace Parker understood this tension better than anyone. She had lived between eras, respected by the veterans, admired by the new wave. She saw both sides clearly. She saw the pride veterans carried, and the resentment they tried to hide. She saw the pressure Caitlin faced, and the unrealistic expectations strapped to her shoulders. And she knew the Caitlin versus Diana discourse wasn't a simple case of old versus young, or legend versus rookie. It was a collision of history and evolution, of eras clashing under the spotlight of a league, trying to redefine itself faster than its infrastructure could keep up. Candace watched Diana's now infamous comments, "It's going to be hard. Reality's coming," and felt the sharp sting of truth laced with ego. Warning, wrapped in a challenge. Meanwhile, she watched Caitlin respond with composure, refusing to give the media the rivalry it desperately wanted. But Candace sensed the emotional load beneath that composure. Caitlin wasn't just navigating basketball, she was navigating legacy politics she never signed up for. Aliyah Boston experienced the tension from a different angle. As a star from the generation just ahead of Caitlin, she had walked into the league with her own expectations, her own battles, her own spotlight, one that dimmed the moment Caitlin entered the WNBA like a meteor. Aliyah didn't resent Caitlin. She understood her impact better than most.
Yes. The reason why I say Caitlin, she's a scoring point guard. Sue has mastered being a facilitator, and she makes her shots when it was important.
Caitlin was treated, blamed for backlash she didn't create, despised for attention she couldn't control, compared endlessly to players who had 15 more years of experience. Aliyah knew the pressure of being expected to uplift a franchise. Caitlin was expected to uplift an entire league. And the Diana Caitlin debate threw gasoline on a fire already raging behind the scenes. Because Diana Taurasi wasn't just speaking for herself, she was speaking for a generation that felt overshadowed by a rookie's instant fame. And while some veterans defended Caitlyn, others felt threatened by the sudden shift in league dynamics. Candace saw this divide widening every month. She saw the whispers in hallways, the coded language in interviews, the subtle frustration in locker rooms across the league. And she saw something else, something dangerous. The media loved the narrative, they stoked it. They twisted tension into rivalry, layered interpretation over nuance, turned every Caitlyn-related comment into ammunition for whichever storyline brought the most views. Candace knew how easily narratives like this spiraled out of control. She had lived it. She had seen careers molded or broken by perception. She wasn't going to let Caitlyn fall into that trap. Aliyah had her own reasons for stepping into the conversation. She remembered the first time she faced Caitlyn in college, the hype, the noise, the pressure. She remembered how fans turned players into symbols, and symbols into weapons. She remembered how every mistake became a headline. She saw Caitlyn now living that reality on a scale no women's player ever had. And Aliyah wasn't going to let the narrative drown Caitlyn without speaking the truth. Caitlyn wasn't here to replace anyone. She was here to elevate everyone. The league didn't need to choose between eras. It needed to stop pitting them against each other. What fans didn't know, what Candace and Aliyah didn't say publicly, was that the Diana-Caitlyn discussion had sparked private arguments inside multiple teams. Group chats exploded. Veterans debated respect. Younger players debated expectations. Coaches tried to calm the tension. And through it all, Caitlyn stayed silent, refusing to feed a feud she never wanted. But silence has a cost. Without Caitlyn speaking, the narrative took on a life of its own. The league needed a voice strong enough to break the cycle. That's why Candace finally stepped in. She wasn't defending Caitlyn. She wasn't attacking Diana. She was defending the integrity of the league's future. She was defending the idea that greatness doesn't diminish greatness, that evolution doesn't erase history, that Caitlyn Clark didn't ask to be the symbol of a generational clash, but now that she was, she needed allies strong enough to steady the storm. Aliyah joined her, not out of loyalty, but out of necessity. Someone needed to say what players whispered behind the scenes. The league was splitting in two, and if the divide wasn't addressed, if the Caitlyn-Diana discourse kept spiraling, it would tear apart the fragile unity the WNBA had spent decades building. And that was the emotional truth behind the broadcast. Candace and Aliyah weren't speaking for drama. They were speaking because the league had reached a breaking point. And the first shocking twist was moments away. The debate that Candace Parker and Aliyah Boston detonated on national television didn't simply send shockwaves across the WNBA, it ripped open a fault line the league had been desperately trying to seal. Within hours, their comments about Caitlyn Clark and Diana Taurasi became the epicenter of a firestorm that no PR department, no executive, no veteran, no rookie could contain. Social media erupted, analysts scrambled for deeper angles, and players across the league suddenly found themselves forced to pick a side in a conflict that had been quietly brewing, silently escalating, and now publicly exploding. But the true breaking point came behind the scenes, where a private conflict had been bubbling long before Candace and Aliyah spoke, and now, with the world watching, it erupted into something far more dangerous. As Candace left the broadcast studio that night, her phone buzzed non-stop, players texting her thank yous, executives demanding explanations, media outlets begging for interviews. But one message stood out, a short, sharp text from a veteran very close to Diana Taurasi. "You just threw gasoline on something you don't understand." Candace stared at the screen, exhaling slowly. She had expected backlash, but not from someone this connected, this respected, this intertwined with Taurasi's
Angel Wilson versus
She
Candace
replied
Parker.
calmly.
I'm gonna go with Candace.
Maybe it needed to
I think
burn.
Candace, she had a little bit
But even
more
as she
to her
typed the
game
words,
on the
she
perimeter.
felt the
I think people are
tension
forgetting
tightening
she
around her
was
like a
Rookie of
rope.
the Year and MVP in the
She
same
knew
season.
what she
Got
had done.
pregnant, came back, like,
And she
she's one of
knew
those
it
ones.
wasn't
But
just
Angel Wilson as
commentary,
well. I
it
mean,
was a
that's somebody
declaration.
who's resident.
She
Aliyah
gets better
Boston,
every
meanwhile,
year. Like,
faced
You even felt like at the beginning of this season, people were kind of starting to write off her and the Aces. And she probably had the most impressive run thus far.
But within her own franchise, she felt a shift in the air coaches looked uneasy. Teammates whispered. Staffers avoided eye contact. She wasn't hated. She wasn't condemned. But she was feared now, not for her talent, but for her honesty. And in a league where politics and hierarchy often dominated behind the scenes, speaking too boldly about the wrong person about Diana Taurasi carried consequences. Aliyah had felt it before, but never like this. And then there was Caitlin Clark. She had watched the entire debate unfold in real time. Candace's fire, Aliyah's clarity, the studio falling into stunned silence. She appreciated their support. She was grateful they understood her reality. But the moment Diana's name entered the conversation, Caitlin felt the familiar dread coil in her stomach. She had never asked for a rivalry with one of the greatest players of all time. She had never wanted to be positioned against Diana, yet every time she tried to step out of the narrative, the league forced her right back into it. Now, Candace and Aliyah had dragged the truth into the open, and Caitlin knew the veterans wouldn't let it rest, especially not Diana. The next morning, internal tensions inside multiple teams reached boiling point. Coaches tried to calm their players. Analysts debated whether the league was in a generational war. Tamara from Phoenix tweeted a cryptic message, "Respect isn't optional," which fans instantly interpreted as a shot at Caitlin. Dozens of players posted vague quotes about legacy, hard work, and earning your place. Younger players fired back with posts about evolution, growth, and accepting change. The league was fracturing in real time, but the real chaos erupted inside the Players' Leadership Council, where an emergency closed-door meeting was scheduled in response to Candace and Aliyah's comments. Executives expected a mild discussion, maybe a vote on media guidelines. Instead, the meeting erupted into shouting within minutes. A veteran pounded the table, arguing, "This league wasn't built on hype, it was built on sacrifice. Fans need to respect that." A younger star fired back, "No one is disrespecting sacrifice, we're saying stop blaming Caitlin for the league finally being visible." Candace, attending via video call, attempted to mediate, but the room had already splintered. Then Diana Taurasi walked in. The room fell silent instantly. Her presence alone commanded attention, the legend, the icon, the symbol of an era. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She simply said, "Everyone needs to calm down, but let's be clear, respect goes both ways." Her tone was calm, but her eyes cut through the room like steel. Younger players watched her cautiously. Older players nodded with relief. Caitlin wasn't present, but she became the invisible weight pressing on every word spoken. Candace asked the question no one else dared to. "So what exactly do you feel Caitlin has done wrong?" Diana looked directly into the camera, unblinking. "Nothing," she said. "But the league is creating something dangerous around her." The room tensed. "What do you mean?" Aliyah asked. Diana's jaw tightened. "You're all fighting each other for no reason. Meanwhile, someone else, someone higher up, is benefiting from this divide." The room erupted with confused murmurs. Candace leaned in. "What are you saying?" Diana crossed her arms. "I'm saying the narrative around Caitlin didn't grow naturally. It was engineered, pushed, amplified, and not by fans." Her words hung in the air like smoke. Aliyah frowned. "Engineered by who?" Diana hesitated, something rare for her, before finally speaking. "There's a group, executives with old loyalties, people who don't want the league shifting yet. People who think elevating Caitlin too quickly destabilizes everything they've built. They're using all of us, me, Caitlin, you, Candace, as chess pieces." A few players laughed, thinking it was exaggeration. But Diana didn't flinch. "It's real," she insisted. "And they're manipulating this debate to fracture the players before CBA negotiations." Candace went still. Aliyah's eyes widened. Some veterans exchanged worried glances. The twist was shocking enough, but then Diana dropped the part that froze the entire room. "They approached me last month," she said quietly. asked me to ease up publicly on Caitlyn. Asked me to smooth the narrative. And when I refused, they asked me something else. The room leaned in. They asked me to help create a rivalry, a scripted one, to drive engagement. Candace looked horrified. You're saying this entire narrative was manufactured? No, Diana said. I'm saying someone wants us divided. Wants you two, she pointed at Aliyah and Candace, to stay on one side, and Caitlyn on the other. Aliyah whispered. Why? Diana answered with a cold truth. Because a united player base is harder to control. The entire room fell into stunned silence. And then the door burst open. A league official rushed in, face pale, hands shaking. We need to stop this meeting now. A new clip just leaked online. Candace's stomach dropped. Aliyah grabbed her phone. Diana closed her eyes, bracing herself. The official played the audio. A voice, unmistakably belonging to a top executive, said, "If Parker or Boston continue supporting Clark publicly, we'll have no choice but to isolate all three. Isolate. All three. Candace, Aliyah, Caitlyn." Diana looked at the players, voice low and grave. It's worse than I thought. The room erupted into panic. Because the league wasn't just pushing narratives now. They were targeting its biggest voices. The moment the leaked clip finished playing, the room inside the Players' Leadership Council descended into an emotional freefall. Panic ricocheted off the walls. Veterans stared at their phones in disbelief. Younger players whispered fiercely, exchanging horrified looks. Even those who rarely spoke in meetings found themselves trembling. Because this wasn't just politics anymore. This was a coordinated attempt to silence the biggest voices in the league. Candace Parker, Aliyah Boston, Caitlyn Clark. 3 players who represented 3 different generations, 3 different power centers, 3 different fan bases targeted for one reason, because together, they were too strong, too influential, too capable of changing the league from the inside out. And the league knew it. Candace held her breath as she looked around the room. She could see the shock, the fear, the dawning realization that everything she and Aliyah had warned about wasn't exaggeration, it was real, it was happening. And it had been happening long before any of them spoke publicly. They're not hiding it anymore, Candace finally said, her voice low but deadly calm. They're done with subtlety. Aliyah felt her heart pounding in her throat. She looked at the players she respected, loved, fought beside, and felt her stomach drop as she realized just how deep the fracture went. Some players avoided her eyes, others nodded, silently begging her to keep speaking. A few looked terrified, knowing that aligning with her could put a target on their backs too. And in the corner of the room, Diana Taurasi stood perfectly still. Arms folded, face unreadable, but her eyes? Her eyes were burning. Then Diana spoke, not to Candace or Aliyah, but to the entire room. "This is the moment," she said sharply. "Right now, this is when we decide whether we're a league or a liability." The room froze. Veterans leaned forward. Younger players straightened in their seats. Diana scanned the room slowly. "They're counting on us to fight each other, to silence each other, to blame each other. Because if we do that, they win without lifting a finger." Her voice sharpened. "But if we stand together, they have nothing." For a moment, the room breathed as one. Then everything cracked. The league official who'd stormed in took a step forward, voice trembling with a mix of authority and fear. "This meeting is now terminated. All players are required to leave. Immediately. No further discussion is permitted." Aliyah stared at him in disbelief. "You're shutting down our leadership council meeting?" He nodded stiffly. "This discussion is no longer within the bounds of approved agenda," Candace scoffed. "Approved? You mean controlled?" The official didn't answer. He simply repeated, "Leave." But no one moved. The air thickened with tension, raw, electric, combustible. Then, without warning, the door swung open again. This time, it wasn't an official. It was a staffer from a major sports network. Out of breath, face pale, hands shaking. "You all need to see this," she gasped, holding up her phone. "Another leak, a big one. The room braced itself. She tapped the screen. A video played, grainy, secretive, clearly recorded without the subject's knowledge. But the audio was unmistakable. A group of executives sat around a table. One of them spoke first. Clark, Parker, Boston, Taurasi, those four cannot be allowed to unite. If they do, they overturn the power structure. Another added, we need a plan to break their alliances, pump the rivalries, feed the media. And then came the line that made every player in the room go still. If the debate escalates, encourage Taurasi to push harder. If Parker defends Clark, isolate her publicly. If Boston aligns with either, reduce her media access. And if Clark pushes back, target her confidence. Target her confidence. Aliyah felt her stomach twist violently. Candace felt fire rise in her throat. Diana's jaw clenched so hard her teeth ached. The staffer's voice trembled. It gets worse. She pressed play again. A different executive spoke. We need an emotional crack. Something public. Something that turns the narrative against them. Push conflict. Push doubt. Push friction. The room exploded with horrified whispers. Someone gasped. Someone else cursed loudly. Even Diana looked shaken, not by the strategy itself, but by how coldly it had been crafted. Candace stepped forward, gripping the table as she felt rage burn through her veins. So this was never about basketball, she said quietly. This was never about comments, or respect, or generational difference. Her eyes narrowed, hardening into steel. This was a setup. Aliyah turned toward Diana, voice unsteady. You said they approached you. But you didn't say they asked you to provoke Caitlyn. Diana exhaled slowly, pain flickering across her expression. Because I refused. I told them if they wanted drama, they'd have to find someone else. Candace frowned. So they created it anyway. They twisted your words. They turned your warning into an attack. Diana nodded. They wanted the rookies to think I hated her. They wanted the veterans to think the rookies were disrespectful. They wanted a civil war. Aliyah felt anger tightening in her chest. And we fed right into it. The room fell silent, not with guilt, but with determination. That's when another phone buzzed. Loud. Urgent. Every head turned. It belonged to Caitlyn Clark. She had just entered the hallway outside the meeting, face flushed, breath uneven, eyes wide with something between fear and fury. She stood in the doorway, shaken but unbroken. I saw the leak, Caitlyn whispered. Candace stepped toward her slowly. Are you okay? Caitlyn shook her head. No, and I don't think any of us will be after what comes next. The room tensed. What happened? Aliyah asked. Caitlyn swallowed hard, holding up her phone. A final clip had leaked. One nobody had seen yet. A clip that changed everything. On the screen, an executive said the words that froze every soul in the room. We need to separate Clark from Parker and Boston permanently. Taurasi is useful only if she can be influenced. Remove her if necessary. Remove her. Remove Diana Taurasi. Candace felt her breath stop. Aliyah felt her heart drop. Diana's face went pale. They're planning to phase me out, she whispered. Or force me out. Caitlyn's voice shook as she whispered the truth. They don't just want us divided, Candace. She looked at all three women. They want us destroyed. The room erupted. But Caitlyn wasn't done. She stepped forward, fire blazing in her eyes. Then we fight back. The room went dead silent. And for the first time in years, Candace, Aliyah, Diana, Caitlyn stood on the same side. A united force. A threat the league never prepared for. The war was no longer hidden. It had officially begun. The air inside the council room thickened with a tension none of them had ever felt before, raw, electric, and almost dangerous in its intensity. Candace stood tall, her jaw clenched as she tried to process the horrifying reality that the league she'd given her life to was willing to discard her, manipulate her, or silence her if it suited their agenda. Aliyah hovered near Caitlyn protectively, one hand on her shoulder, grounding her as shock rippled through the younger star's body. Diana Taurasi, legend, icon, warrior had gone still, so still it frightened everyone in the room. Her legacy was supposed to guarantee her respect, her voice, her permanence. Instead, she now had proof the league wanted to remove her if she didn't cooperate. It was bigger than scandal now, bigger than conflict, bigger than politics. It was betrayal at the highest level. Caitlyn could barely breathe. Her mind replayed the words, "Remove her." The league didn't just want to fracture relationships, they wanted to erase anyone who challenged their control. The realization settled into her chest with crushing weight. They had tried to manipulate her rookie season. They had weaponized Diana's words against her. They tried to isolate Aliyah. They leaked selective audio to turn the veterans against the new wave. And now she saw the truth clearly. They weren't fighting players. They were fighting unity. Candace spoke first, voice low, steady, lethal. If they're willing to go after someone like Diana, then they're willing to go after anyone. Diana finally moved. She stepped forward, placing both hands on the table, leaning into the center of the room with the focus of someone preparing for battle. "I've been in this league for 20 years, she said quietly. "I've taken hits, criticism, trash talk, losses, injuries, everything. But I've never been afraid." Her voice hardened. "Tonight is the first time I've felt fear." The room stilled. "But," she added, her tone scorching now, "it's also the first time I've felt this determined." Aliyah nodded, her eyes glistening with furious resolve. "They created this division. They wanted us to hate each other." She looked at Caitlyn. "But now, they've created something much worse." Caitlyn looked up. "What?" Aliyah's lips thinned into a dangerous smile. "A team they can't break." Outside the building, fans had already gathered in the hundreds, holding signs, chanting names, demanding answers after the day's explosive leaks. The league was scrambling behind the scenes, issuing panicked statements, trying to explain away the audio clips. But chaos had taken root. The truth was out, and players across the league were watching closely, some terrified, some furious, all of them realizing that if the league could target these four, the most visible, powerful group possible, then no one was safe. Just when the room felt united for the first time in years, a soft buzz echoed from Caitlyn's phone. A new message. Unknown number. White text on a black screen. "You're in more danger than you realize. Leave the building immediately. Do not stay with the veterans." This goes beyond the league. Caitlyn's skin went cold. Candace stepped closer. "What is it?" Caitlyn reluctantly showed her the screen. The message repeated again as a second text arrived. They already activated Phase Red. Aliyah glanced at Diana. "What's Phase Red?" Diana shook her head slowly. "I've never heard of it. That's not league terminology." Candace's eyes narrowed. "Which means it's someone else, someone outside the WNBA structure." A chill ran through the room. If this wasn't league officials, who was it? Sponsors? Media groups? Investors? A shadow committee? No one knew, and the uncertainty was paralyzing. Another text flashed. "If you stay, they'll pin the leaks on you. All of you." Candace exhaled sharply. "They're setting us up." Aliyah's voice trembled. "We need to leave." But before they could move, the building lights flickered again. The emergency alarms fell silent. Then a slow mechanical locking sound echoed through the hallway. The exits were being sealed. Caitlyn's heart pounded. Diana walked toward the door and tried the handle. Locked. Candace's voice dropped into a whisper. "They're trapping us." Silence swallowed the room. Then Caitlyn's phone buzzed one more time. One final message. "If you want the truth, the real truth, there's only one person who can tell you. She's already inside the building." Caitlyn's breath hitched. "Who?" she whispered. Before anyone could guess, the doorknob slowly turned. Someone on the other side unlocked it. Caitlyn, Candace, Aliyah, and Diana stared as the door creaked open. A silhouette stood there. Familiar. unexpected, unimaginable. Candace gasped. Aliyah stepped back. Diana's eyes widened dangerously. Caitlin whispered the name. You? The figure stepped fully into the light. Smirking. Let's talk. The truth was about to hit harder than any debate ever had. And nothing in the WNBA would be the same again.